Okay, so we go from, as I just made mention, to something great to something not so great. And I'm not, a pessimist, and I'm not one of those people that is going to just harp on this and bang the drum every single day of this event. But the writer's strike is real. Let's call it what it is. And I said it a while ago, what was going to happen is either this was going to get fixed at the 11th hour, or this was going to go on for a long time. And so they have gone on strike, and this was really the first week of it. And now, okay, we're finding out, believe it or not, that there is one company out there that's forcing their employees to work, and that's Disney. Disney is now basically telling their showrunners and producers they have to work during this writer's strike. And part of me is like, what are they thinking? But also the other part of me is like, okay, I understand it. It's a business thing. So here's the article from THR, and I want to read this to you guys because, and I'm not going to read the Q&A at the bottom. I'll leave the link at the bottom in the page for you guys because I want you to read the Q&A. I think, and maybe it's just me, but I think I found a loophole. But nonetheless, so this, as I said, comes from the THR. Studios demanding showrunners work during writer's strike. Disney and Warner Brothers Discovery this week sent out a letter to showrunners employed by the company's various studios, reminding striking employees, writer producers, that they are still expected to perform their contractual obligated non-writing services. The letter from the legal department of ABC Signature, owned by Disney, reads this. We want specifically to reiterate to you as a showrunner or other writer producer that you are not excused from performing your duties as a showrunner and or / producer on your series as a result of the WGA strike. Your personal service agreement with the studio requires that you perform your actions with the showrunner and or producing duties, even with the WGA, even if the WGA attempts to fine you or for performing such services during the strike, wrote Bob McPhail, the assistant chief counsel for Disney owned ABC Signature, in a letter sent to showrunners and obtained by the THR. Your duties as a showrunner and or / producer are not excused, suspended, or terminated until and unless you are so notified in writing by the studio. The letter is dated May 3rd, which is the second day of the WGA's strike against members of the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers, which represents studios and streamers. Writers have hit the picket lines in Los Angeles and New York this week as they seek increased wages, viewership transparency from streamers, and protections against mini rooms and the use of artificial intelligence. A similar letter sent by Max, formerly HBO Max, on May 2nd said to WGA members who also serve in producer capacities, quote, HBO Max respects your membership in the WGA and will not do anything to place you in jeopardy of violating WGA rules. However, we believe certain services such as participating in the casting process and or contributing to non-writing production and post-production work are clear examples of non-WGA required services that should continue to be rendered during this time, end quote. The memo also added, the WGA cannot permit you from rendering producing services pursuant to your personal services agreement as long as you are providing non-writing services. The Disney letter, read it below, features a Q&A, and I'm not going to do that. You guys can read that if you want. I'll put the link in the description. Informing showrunners that they are, quote, required, end quote, to perform duties that are not in line with the guidance provided by the WGA and to its 11,500 striking members. The memo specifically states in the showrunners and or producers role, quote, you may, along with other non-writing services, be required to perform services commonly referred to as A through H services as producer, such as cutting for time, small changes to dialogue or narration before and during production, and, quote, changes in technical or stage direction, end quote. These are duties that, according to the WGA's contract, non-writers can perform on covered projects. However, The WGA strike rules explicitly prohibit union members from performing these activities during the 2023 work stoppage. The, work, the rules prohibit hyphenates members who are employed in dual capacities from performing any services, including A through H functions, the rules state, which puts the showrunners and the writers in a difficult position, caught in between the dictates of their employees and the union. A lot of it sounds wrong. A through H, a lot of it sounds wrong. A through H duties are specifically outlined by the Guild as things you cannot do, said one longtime showrunner of the Disney memo. This person did not receive that memo as they did not have a deal with Disney. But legally, I'm sure that there's a lot of tussling over this. Long story short, this doc is fooling no writer. It's just odd because it's written almost as they were trying to organize a company that was already unionized, like we were already in the union, man. In a statement to THR on Friday, the WGA noted that, quote, A through H services, end quote, are specifically, quote, specified, defined in the Guild writing as services, end quote, and that they are, quote, struck work that Guild members are prohibited from doing a work stoppage. The Guild added, it is shameful that Disney, which has grown its business on unionized labor, is resorting to this familiar union-busting tactic. The Max letter is specifying that the company believes, quote, certain services, end quote, during casting, production, post are non-WGA services, also potentially opening showrunners up to being caught between their Guild-mandated ban on A through H functions and the company's expectations. The Matt's further letter argues that showrunners should come to work despite the Guild's insistence that, quote, no member should cross a WGA picket line or enter the premises of a struck company for any purpose, end quote. The Matt's communication calls this dictate misleading, end quote, as the WGA cannot discipline writer producers from performing non-writing services only. HBO Max expects you to continue to come to work to perform non-writing duties under your contract during a WGA strike unless and until those services are formally suspended or terminated, it states. Okay, let's talk about this because this is important, okay? You have people right now, okay, that are caught in between a rock and a hard place, okay? And that rock and a hard place is somewhere called Disney. They want them to come to work, okay? And they want them to work and perform these services as known as A through H. On the other hand, the DGA basically says you can't do this because they're in the union. And I think that it's incredibly, first of all, look, at the end of the day, push comes to shove, okay? I think Disney needs to just pay, and all these studios, okay, just need to pay the writers. It needs to be a fair, legal agreement. The problem is that you have two people, okay? You have the immovable object against the unstoppable force here. Because the writers are the ones that go. They are the ones that make the content, okay? And then on this side, you have the studios that want to make as much money as they can, and they're just butting heads. Now, this is what happens, and you have a strike. The last time that you had a strike like this, you got, this is how people forget, this is how reality television started. Way back in the day when there was a writer's strike. Because they finally agreed after a 6-month period of time, but all these shows, they started coming on. We still have Survivor 25 years later. Okay? I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that, people that strike, people that are on strike are going to be ready to go back to work very soon. The strike is not going to last that long. I tend to disagree with you, Kevin. I tend to disagree with you because the thing is, the studio does not want to give up the um, they don't want to give up any power. Okay, and it's not just studios. You have to understand something too. It's not just studios. Okay, it's streamers too. And I think that when you have these companies that are making billions and billions and billions of dollars, okay, but you're paying peanuts to these people over here, and they can't even make a living, especially in the last 5, 6 years since the pandemic. Okay, inflation has killed everybody. It doesn't matter where you are in the United States. It has killed everybody. Okay, it was as high as 9.5% at one point. Okay, I know in Los Angeles, I don't live in per se in Los Angeles, but you're paying $5 for a gallon of gas right now. Okay, because inflation is killing everybody, and until inflation drops, and it's true in anything, whether it's groceries, you're spending more for groceries now. You know, whether it's gas, you're running them, whether it's your mortgage. I mean, even though that's a little different, but all these other things are going up. There's a difference between a living wage and minimum wage. Okay, a living wage is something that you can live off of. Okay, and you can put a little money away. God forbid there's an emergency. Okay, minimum wage. Okay, is something that, because you got to remember, a lot of these people are entry. I mean, yes, there are experienced writers and everything else, but some of these people are entry level writers. So they're getting the bottom of the bucket. Okay. And they're paying union dues. Okay. So don't forget that too. Because there's, when something like this happens, you got to have, you have to go on strike. The point is this. Okay. When you have a company telling you to go to work, okay, and then you have your union over here, that who do you be loyal to? Do you be loyal to your company, or do you be loyal to your union? Now, it's interesting because here in the Q&A, in the letter, okay, I'm going to read something real quick to you guys because it's fascinating. Okay, it says here, okay, that, and I have to find it, bear with me. It says here that they will cover Disney, so ABC Signature or Disney, okay, will cover the cost of their fines. Okay, should a studio, where is it? Basically, what it's saying is this, okay, that if there are any fines, the studio will cover them. Okay. That being said, okay, here's the question here. Can WGA members resign their membership to afford paying? Okay. So if you are a member of the WGA, this is the answer to the question. If you are a member of the WGA and intend to, okay, that's if you resign your membership. The point is this. It said that the company will basically turn around and pay your fines. And I don't believe that. Okay. Because that's going to cost the company quite a bit of money. Okay. Because the longer that they are on strike for, the more they're going to be paying in fines. And I just don't see how. I just don't see how they're going to be able to do that. Look, they make billions of dollars. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's one of those things where this is going to go on. People don't believe me. It's going to go on a long, long time. And Marvel just got hit by this the other day because their writers, okay, just so the movie Blade, okay, that was supposed to, it's going to be coming out in a couple of years with Michelle, with the movie Blade, okay, those writers just went on strike. So it's going to be fascinating to see. I mean, we just had a fantastic opening with Guardians of the Galaxy, and we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. But it's one of those things where you go, how long is this really going to last? And I think that, you know, I don't know. I mean, I think that it's going to last quite a long time, and people people need to buckle in for the long run. So, anyways, what do you guys think about Disney making their showrunners and producers work during the strike? Do you think they're right in having them do the A through H stuff? Or do you think the guild is right in basically telling them you need to come with us? What would you do in this kind of scenario? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and I'll get back to everybody.